Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're looking at an EDC fixed blade that I hadn't planned on buying, but when I saw the price, I absolutely had to, and that is the TwoSun TS580. And since I mentioned the price, I'll start by letting you know that I got this for $54 from White Mountain Knives. They had a sale going on TwoSun knives, and then on top of that, I added one of their 10% off coupons they always seem to have running. The list price for this is $70, and even at that price, I think this one is an absolute no-brainer. Now, it is out of stock everywhere that I looked except for eBay and Amazon, and both of those sites, it's running $90, so actually a little bit above list price. But even at $90, I think this is a solid deal. So I will have a link down in the description to Amazon in case you are interested in that. It is an affiliate link, so I will get a small commission, just full disclosure. But on to what you get for that price. It is a 2.7-inch M390 blade and carbon fiber scales. And for comparison, my Lion Steel M1, which is the other knife, the other fixed blade knife that I have in M390, that one cost me $120 and it came with wood scales, which generally tend to be a little bit cheaper than carbon fiber. So just to kind of put into perspective the deal and the materials you're getting here. So with that low of a price, I'm usually very skeptical on if a knife steel is actually what is listed. And that's especially when it's manufactured in China and it's not one of the big names like, say, Kaiser, Civivi, Concept, CJRV, one of those. However, I was able to find a spreadsheet that somebody compiled that shows the results of testing for both composition and hardness by several content creators. Love Them Knives was one of the most prolific in that list because I know he sends quite a few in for that kind of testing. But the important thing is that that table showed that every single TwoSun knife that was tested was in fact the advertised steel, including all of the M390 samples. The one thing I did notice was that several of the M390 samples came in a little bit softer than advertised as far as their HRC. So that is something to be aware of, but for the price, even if it's a tiny bit soft for M390, to me, it's still probably worth it. But back to the knife at hand, I can get a full 4-finger grip with my large, extra large size hands. And I will say this is a knife that really, it looks smaller than it is. When you pick it up, I won't say it fills your hand, but it is not as small in your hand as it looks when it is sitting in the box or on the table. These scales are fairly smooth. There is not a whole lot of texture to this, which I'm not a big carbon fiber person, so I don't know if you can get a lot of texture out of carbon fiber, but it is fairly smooth, which again, you're not going to be batoning with this. You're not going to be really abusing this. It's not what this knife is designed for, so not a big deal. It does have some jimping here, and that's good for if you're bearing down with your thumb there. I would have liked to have seen some forward jimping here because I think this is a knife that would be really, really good for pinch grip cuts, but not a big deal. Now, the other thing, and this isn't really an Ergos thing, it's just kind of an odd design choice thing, the hole here. I do not know why they did that. I'm sure it doesn't weaken it that much because, again, you're not using this knife for a lot of really hard used things, but it's just a really odd design choice. Now, my little conspiracy theory, I'm wondering if this was originally designed as a folding knife and then they actually turned the design into a fixed blade knife and they just left that hole there as part of the design. And I have nothing to prove that. I have nothing that, would lead me to believe that that's 100% true, but that would just make sense to me. So again, that's my little conspiracy theory. Again, doesn't hurt anything, just thought it was an odd design choice. Now the sheath is decent quality, and you get a good click when it locks in there. It is very secure. It doesn't rattle around in there. If you do hear rattling there, it's just the buttons on the soft belt loops there. But yeah, it does not rattle. It does not shake around in the sheath at all. The one thing is I do wish you would get more of your finger in there under it when you go to pull it out. Just maybe even just cut a little bit section out right there. But again, not a big deal because what I do, I kind of index off of this part right here, put my pinky there, and then when I slide out, it gets my fingers in the right spot. So I also wish that they would have added a few more grommets to the sheath, like maybe here and here, just so it gives you more options for how you want to mount either your belt loops or say you wanted to use an ulti-clip on here or one of the discrete carry concepts clips. Now you can probably still use those with this, but I just think it would be a better setup if you had a couple more grommets here, because it would give you more flexibility. So, and actually, if they did that, I think this would actually be one of my biggest competitors with my Montana Knife Company Speed Goat 2.0, which is my current favorite pocket carry knife. I think that this would really give it a run for its money. But as it is a great belt knife for me. It just absolutely disappears on my belt when I put it on there. Which, onto the topic of carry, the lightweight combined with a small footprint make this a very easy knife to keep on you, no matter how you want to carry it. As I mentioned, using an ulti clip will push the clip a little bit higher than I like. Using these top two, I think you may be able to do it with the bottom two down here. I'll have to try that out. I just went straight to these once I kind of realized I couldn't use the top two holes like I wanted to. If you're not one where it bothers you that the ulti clip comes up past the top of the sheath, this could be a great pocket carry knife for you. Now I carry mine appendix cross draw, and in that position it absolutely disappears under whatever overshirt, or really I could even probably wear a t-shirt over it. And I will bring in my belt simulator here and show you what it looks like clipped on the belt. And obviously the way that this is set up, this would actually be strong side appendix, but it still gives you an idea of how it sits on the belt. And one of the things I like too, you can see it really blends in with the belt. So if you say reach above your head or something and your shirt hikes up, it's not going to stand out like a sore thumb, like if you had like a bright orange sheath or something like that. It's going to blend into your belt, so it won't bring a lot of attention to you. So there we go. So build quality on this is absolutely solid. I have no issues with how this lines up with the tang and the scales. It all lines up very, very well. Really impressively, again, for the price that it costs. I wouldn't mind if the scales had a tad more texture, but we'd probably have to look at another scale material. I feel like carbon fiber probably tends to be a little slicker like this. The other thing is, this is one of the sharpest blades that I have ever received from the factory. Like I'll just show you, like usually I have to kind of, mess with the edge of the paper just to get it to go in, especially the factory edge, but this bad boy, straight through there. Like there is no hesitation when you're getting into the paper. Well, I guess there is on that edge there because it's kind of ripped, but up here, absolute laser beam when it comes to cutting. So on to the pros and the cons of this knife for me. The pros, there are a lot of them. It is a great knife steel and a great scale material, especially for the price, but even for twice the price, this would be a good steel and good scale material. The small footprint and lightweight make it, while still being able to get a full four-finger grip, make it a great and easy to carry option. It comes sharp, as you just saw, and the price is just nearly unbeatable, especially when you pay what I did, but even if you pay a little bit more, it is an awesome, awesome price. The cons, they're really, really minor. The hole in the blade is just an odd design choice, and I think they probably should have just, left that there, but it is what it is. It doesn't hurt anything. The sheath, as I mentioned, could use more grommets to help with mounting options, but again, there's nothing wrong with it the way that it is. And based on the mentioned steel test, you just need to be aware that the steel may be a little bit softer than advertised, as that just kind of tends to be a tendency with TwoSun apparently. But even if it's a little bit lower, again, still a good deal for the steel. So I'm going to bring in some comparisons, and the first one I'm going to bring in is the one that I mentioned as a comparison, and that is the Lion Steel M1. You can see they're very similar in size, although this is a more petite knife overall, especially down in the grip area. And the other one that I mentioned was the Montana Knife Company Speed Goat. So you can tell they're very similar knives in size. The Speed Goat, it's a mini Speed Goat 2.0. It is by far the lightest of these three. The TwoSun is definitely light in its own right, but you can see the blade stock is a little bit thicker, and just overall, this is an insanely lightweight knife. To get any lighter than this, I don't know how you do it. But the TwoSun is still very, very lightweight in its own right. So we'll get those back out of here. Oh. And next we have the Waxed Wing Nymph and the SE Azula. Now the Nymph is probably much closer in size and weight to the TwoSun. It is also a thinner blade stock, much like the Montana Knife Company Mini Speed Goat, but very, very comparable in size. Now this one is made in the USA and has Nitro V steel, and this one again is made in China with M390. So you're getting made in America versus a higher end steel. So this also cost about twice what the TwoSun did. Now, I absolutely think this is worth the price that you pay, especially for an American-made knife, but just for context. And the SE Azula, you can see it is a taller blade. It is definitely heavier. Now, this also has extended scales from the knife connection, so that makes it a little bit longer. If you had the standard scales on here, it would probably be actually pretty close, if not a little bit shorter than the TwoSun. But that'll give you some size comparisons. And we have one last batch of size comparisons, and those are the Buck Alpha Scout Pro, which is a little bit smaller overall, and the Griffin Co. Scout 2.5. Now, these two are very, very similar in overall length. The Griffin Co. is actually a little bit longer, but it has a much taller blade and a thicker blade as well, you can see here, although not a whole lot. And the jimping is a little bit more spread out. I think this is a little bit more functional jimping personally, but both of them are great. But those are the last comparison we're going to do as far as size. I wanted to keep it to knives that are really in a fairly similar size and weight class. But really the only knife that I can say for sure is lighter than the TwoSun is the Montana Knife Company Speed Goat, and that is, I think, literally the lightest knife that I own. So would I buy this again, and would I recommend it? At the list price of $70, that is a solid yes on both of those. Even at the $90 price point that it's currently running on eBay and Amazon, I would still say, yeah, I would definitely pay that for it. And I would also recommend it at that price. Now, at the price that I paid, that's not just a yes, that's a buy two while you can, because it is just that good of a deal. So what do you think? Does this knife have a place in your pocket or on your belt? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this review, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, as that helps me bring you more content like this. Also, if there are any knives or other EDC gear that you'd like to see me check out, please suggest them down in the comments, because that is how I find out about a lot of the gear. But until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I will see you in the next video.